Funnily, I always mention that I'm a pre-Instagram journalist. Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge has been playing at Maratha Mandir forever. So that film would have packed theaters every single day, all the time, but it does not. For younger generations, Y2K fashion has to be repackaged. Deepika Padukone wore a purple sari. That purple was everywhere on Lokhandwala 3 days after that. The experience is very, very digital, and that is the future. Like, what is going on with the world?
Hi everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Thinkly Talks. I'm Aishwarya and I'm your host today for the session on living in the future, what's next for brands, storytelling, and magazines. I am honored and I'm actually really excited to have Arnesh Ghose on board to have a wonderful session on this topic. Arnesh brings with him nearly 14 years of experience in branding, journalism. He's worked as an editor for big brands like Man's World, Rolling Stone, and has also liaisoned with uh, another set of like brands like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Armani, etc. So, hi Arnesh, so excited to have you on board, and the community is also really excited to know more about your thoughts on this topic.
Thank you so much. It's very exciting to be able to talk to a bunch of people who actually want to discuss where the world's going and how the world's changing, and that's always something that I'm very, very passionate about. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So, Arnesh, as I mentioned, you almost bring 14 years of experience to the table, which is obviously not a small feat. And as a writer myself, that's one thing I really, I have a lot of respect and awe for people who are in this profession, in this field, because there's a lot of grind involved. And obviously there has been a lot of change, perhaps, in your tenure also as a journalist, as an editor, as a content lead, etc. So, I think the biggest shift that you may have noticed is how everything suddenly went from print to digital. Like digital became the
Correct.
newest
Yes.
currency. Everyone started talking about spending, mentioning. So, what was, how did you see that transition period for yourself? Or what was the biggest challenge or the biggest surprise maybe you encountered when you were transitioning perhaps from a print to a digital format in terms of branding or like magazine work, leading the content, whatever.
Right. This is one of my favorite things to reminisce about because back in 2014, 2015, so I always very proudly say, proudly actually today there's nothing to be proud of, but funnily I always mention that I'm a pre-Instagram journalist. When we became journalists, Facebook was the only thing, and all you did with Facebook was you just uploaded the story. So please also understand that I started off as a journalist in 2010, 2011, right? I started off as a cub reporter with the Telegraph. I became their cub reporter when, in Bombay for their supplemental tabloid T2. So the thing is that digital back then just meant a website. It just meant taking stories that came out in print and just putting that, uploading them on the website. That is all you had to do. That is all that digital meant. After that, when Facebook became quote unquote a thing, what you did was that you just shared the link and put, a sort of like a very honestly, people would just copy paste the headline and the introduction and put that in the caption segment, and that was it. That's all you did. You didn't bother with anything else, right? The thing
Yeah.
is, I think it was about 2015 when and I am a part of that generation of journalists. We were the first brigade for whom, especially in magazines, and when I say magazines, I'm talking purely in the fashion, lifestyle, entertainment segment. I'm not talking about hard news. I'm talking about soft features. For us, we were in that first brigade where advertisers, for example, because see, before I became a brand architect, a consultant who works with marketing and communications with brands, I was a journalist, right? So a full-time journalist. So the thing is that the shift I very clearly remember is when I did a meeting with a certain advertiser, for whom we had, a two-page ad in that certain issue. We also did a one-page advertorial. The advertiser was paying a hefty amount of money. A hefty amount of money meant that you got an ad and an advertorial, right? And the
Yeah.
advertiser just turned to me and he was like, "Yeah, but what else? What more can we do? Um, this is not enough. And I'm talking about end of 2014, right before the financial year ended. I remember this very clearly. And that is when I was just like, I see a lot of people today will not understand the I won't say shock, but sort of like what that pushback meant. That when your advertisers are not satisfied with what has traditionally forever, if you ask journalists, magazines, people who worked in advertising, marketing, sales, departments of publications 20, 30, 40 years back. My father worked for the advertising and the marketing department of the publication, right? So
Mhm.
getting an ad and then getting an advertorial, because an advertorial is, your readers don't know that it is advertorial. So, so this is you being able to kind of give your brand that kind of eyeballs and that kind of engagement with your readers, and advertorials were a huge deal. So your brands have always been happy with ads and advertorials. That's about it, right? And suddenly they tell you that, hey, what more? And what do you do? It's that, right? And
Yeah.
that is when we realize that there has to be two changes, and those two changes have, they had to happen, and they have happened, or for a lot of people, they might be still happening. Is that you have, as lifestyle features, magazine, and I also mean digital outlets. I'm also talking about digital only publications, all of that. Everyone but hard news. There are two kinds of changes that had to happen, has happened, is happening. One is a cultural and an attitudinal change, and the other one is a structural change. I'll take the structural change first. Is the fact that you need to understand that an article is not going to be, or an ad, for example, or an advertorial, for example, is not going to be just that anymore. That isn't enough. This is a learning, excuse me, I got that day back in 2014, right? That just this amount of traditional brand, engagement, involvement, integration is not enough anymore. You need to build experiences. So whether it is an editorial piece, whether it is an article, a story you've written, or whether it is a brand engagement, there has to be more. That is when structurally magazines started changing. That is when a story has to goes into print, goes on the website, has to turn into a carousel for Instagram, has to turn into a reel, has to turn into a shorter, like a 60-second format that goes up on YouTube Shorts. Can you do more? Are there more ways of doing it? Can it turn into something? Then it goes up on stories. You break it down into multiple Instagram stories with engagements, a quiz, blah blah blah. That story structurally has to become an experience. And you need to have that attitudinal change with the people working in publication to understand that this is what they have to evolve to. The ones who do not or did not, for example, will be left behind. And and the point is also that is the time when the Gen Z started joining the workforce, right? Today, for example, I very honestly see that three generations are working in this industry. Back then, for example, I used to very honestly think that you become a managing editor or an executive editor at the end. That's the last beat of your career. Like, so when you're 45, 50, 55. I became an executive editor of a magazine at the age of 29. I think, and this is not necessarily an achievement, but I think at that point I was the youngest executive editor in the country. Everybody else, because when I would meet other executive editors and managing editors and digital editors, because I was also the digital editor of Man's World, everyone was older than me. Today, for example, look around, and the managing editors, for example, they are all 30, 31, 32, in the 30 to 35 bracket, or maybe up to 40. So that's the thing. The point is that the world very, very drastically and changed very drastically and changed very fast. And it's been quite a ride. So yeah.
Yeah. I really like the point that you raised, that three generations are working, and I think it's a lot more complex. And brands have to adapt to changing times. And we have seen that, brands become irrelevant quickly when they don't hop onto trends, or when they, just refuse to be flexible about these things and just remain
Right.
stuck in old ways. Uh, what got me thinking is that, how brands, I feel like, in the pursuit of maybe trying to breathe emotion into into their stories. Like you said, it's not just an article with a headline and a small snippet that you just post online and you just pray for, engagement. There's a lot of strategizing involved and a lot of, engagement factors or checkpoints that you need to hit. And as
Right.
marketers, I mean, I'm pretty sure you know this. We are told to sell emotions. We're told to sell stories rather than, a single line of copy or a single visual. So brands obviously, I think, recognize that they have to breathe this experience on an online forum as well. But trends also are cyclical, and I feel like they've been leaning more into the nostalgic aspects of things. Like even in the fashion lifestyle space, I think the simplest example I can think of is 90s fashion is making a comeback, the aughts fashion is making a comeback, and uh,
Right.
you had mentioned in your TED talk that people like you are the ones who are the trendsetters. You
Yeah.
you write the trend or you say the trend, and you kind of dictate or kind of lead the ship towards that course, or you chart the course that way. This is going to be relevant now, so you guys should be doing this. So what do you
Correct.
think
Yeah.
about are brands leaning into nostalgia just for the sake of it, or there is some merit to it in terms of digital storytelling? What do you think?
See, I think it's a little bit of both. See, there are three parts to this.
Yeah.
Number one, when it comes to fashion by its very nature is cyclical. All right. Um, I very strongly believe, and this is an educated opinion, not necessarily something I'm coming up by myself, is the fact that there originality is going to be 5% of fashion, every 5 years maybe, right? Everything that you see has been seen. Our parents are the best yardstick for it, right? Because the thing is that today, for example, someone is going to wear, flared pants, and I love this. My parents were extremely young, cool, fashionable people. I'm nowhere as close to being as cool as them. My mom was a journalist. My dad was in advertising. For crying out loud, they were very, very cool, and they've done all of this, right? They've lived. They were, they have always lived in a metro city, so they've experienced these, how should I put it, trends, fads, whatever it is. So
Hmm.
whenever, for example, it comes back, right, they are just like, oh, we've been there, done that, right? So, for example, when Y2K fashion came back, when 2000s fashion came back, we said that, yeah, we've been there, we've done that. Why is this coming back? But the point is, what happens is a new generation will always find it will always rediscover or discover the old anew, right? So it's
Hmm.
like, for example, and that is when what happens is every generation will have their own take. Every generation, like for example, recently I was talking to a couple of my, pop culture. Now they are all content creator friends, and the fact that how reselling of tickets are is seen as it's such a conversation point, thanks to Coldplay or Diljit. Uh, in our country, black में tickets बहुत time से बेचा जाता है. Like the point is that to buy a ticket and then selling a ticket is really not a culturally or it's not a paradigm shift the way, for example, Gen Z or Gen Alpha is making out to be. Is just happening on a maybe on a more respectable platform. Maybe we were used to seeing this very shady looking chap standing out of a single screen theater going like, ek ka do, soccer do, whatever. But the point
Hmm.
is, the component is not new, right? At every level, what is today being seen as such a cultural topic for conversation, I've seen from Juggernaut to every single person, Swaddle, we're doing stories on it. I'm just like, guys, this is not new. This has happened forever. So that's the point, right? That every generation will find something anew. For them, it is new. For the previous generations, it's nostalgia. Nostalgia, by the way, is something that we is a it it can be seen as a marketing gimmick, but it is also a hot cake. Purely because of the fact that I'll tell you why. Because I'll give you the example of how films are being re-released these days, right? Older
Yeah.
films are being re-released, and we are loving it. Everyone's loving it. The reason, for example, I was very excited last year when Titanic released in IMAX 3D. It was an experience, for example, that I went for. I watched it twice purely because of the fact that I never got to watch Titanic in the theaters, right? Because we back then as kids when it released, it was a film for adults. Kids were definitely not allowed, and then after that, it's gone from theaters. So of course, you're watching it at home or however you watched it, right?
Yeah.
The point is now that is nostalgia, that is beautiful nostalgia. Today, for example, Veer Zara to Rockstar, they're all in theaters that people are watching it. See, the thing is that for the previous generation, it's nostalgia. For with PVR and Inox releasing it, for us, it is nostalgia. So nostalgia here becomes a marketing strategy. But for the younger generations, for whom there is no connotation, for example, they have no connection. Because very honestly, if nostalgia was a successful marketing component, it would then work across all generations, all target audiences. It doesn't. It will always be specific to just one demographic. Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge has been playing at Maratha Mandir forever. If
Yeah.
nostalgia was such a hot, marketing component, that film would have packed theaters every single day, all the time, but it does not, right? So for the younger generation, so you'll have to repackage it. So for younger generations, Y2K fashion has to be repackaged. It cannot be the way Britney wore it or the way, for example, Chris Rock wore it back then. It has to be repackaged. It has to come back in a new format. For example, with Charlie XCS and Brat Summer coming in, I'm like, neon green really isn't earth-shatteringly new. It is just that neons 5 years back was something fashion magazines would recommend for what we call the gray months, which was the
Mhm.
monsoon. Because for monsoons you needed a pop of color, so we would be like you could maybe do it with your gum boots, you could maybe do it with your wind cheaters and all that. You add that pop of color to feel a little it rushes endorphins or whatever. Today neon has been repackaged and brought back as sort of like a cultural moment. So it's just repackaging. It's just that. So nostalgia can be a marketing strategy, can be a marketing gimmick, depends purely on who your demographic is. Yeah,
Yeah, nostalgia definitely, I think, is a very powerful tactic, whether you want to call it a strategy or whether you want to, just maybe use it as, forming a connection with the audience, strategy
correct,
or
correct.
not. It's such a powerful emotion because, like you said, there are people who have been there, done that, lived through those times. So it's a way of reliving those. And for the newer generation, it's about rediscovering or discovering it, which is really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, and I agree with you. Like the whole, the Charlie XCX Brad Summer thing was really funny because I feel like, I listened to the album and it was really fun. But in essence, it's still very much her. Like she's not reinvented music or it was not different from the club hits that she's known to make. She just
Correct.
capitalized on the neon green and the blurry font, and she was like, you know what, this is a new wave I'm bringing, and everyone hopped onto that. So,
Correct. I
kind
still
of
don't know what
fascinating
Brat
to
Summer
see.
means. I still don't know what Brat Summer means. I have no idea. I have not listened to her discography. It's just that it pops up on uh, it on Instagram, right? There is just a way of escape. Um, if a trend is going to be spreading like wildfire, there is no escape in today's day and age. If someone
Yeah.
can escape it, wow, kudos! I would really like to know how they're doing it. But it's just that I still don't know. I think the world is also confused. Very honestly, I don't think people really know what Brat Summer even means. They moved on to autumn now, so we are back to pumpkin spice latte. That never goes out of fashion. So yeah,
Yeah. And you know what? The funniest thing to me is when I see people here rave about pumpkin spice lattes and, the
what?
plaid and the maple leaves. And I'm like, we live in a tropical country. What
Yeah,
fault
yeah,
do
yeah.
we have? It's still raining. At least it's still raining here in Bombay.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just makes no sense. And I think but the beauty is what the beauty is that uh number one that's I think what I really like saying this that whoever's done the marketing for Halloween should be given all the awards because
Yeah.
to make Halloween a hit like in India I am shocked. I do not understand how this became a thing that adults are going to dress up in costume and they are happily this year, for example, it's literally clashing with Diwali, and the Halloween parties have started because people really love it. It's the same thing with pumpkin spice latte. Very honestly, it's aspirational marketing, right? So the fact
Yeah.
that you want to feel a part of a global phenomenon, um, and over the course of time, more people have traveled to America. They've been able to kind of get on board the trend. That today, for example, PSL is such an important. But I think that's the difference between Brat Summer and pumpkin spice latte, right? That pumpkin spice latte is went from being a fad to a global trend to an established product in the
Hmm.
world of consumption. Brat Summer is gone. Brat Summer ain't coming back. Next summer it will be some other kind of summer. So I think it is finding that right demographic at the end of the day who's going to lead it for you. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and like you said, the whole idea of Halloween has been like whoever did that, kudos to you, has been packaged and sold to us like anything. And
Yeah.
another reason I feel we kind of either resonate with that or want to do that or aspire to do that is because, the idea of dressing up, people coming together, eating, it's again very
Right.
Indian if you think of it. Because for us, every festival just becomes an opportunity or an excuse to catch up with people you haven't met in a very long time,
Correct.
dress up
Correct.
for no
Absolutely. Yeah.
reason, and
Yeah.
just I think cut yourself slack and kind of let loose, which I feel
Yeah.
in the grind of things we kind of forget to do that. So the festivals are a good way to remind, and Halloween is just another the
Oh yeah.
spooky
Yeah. Yeah.
element is
Yep. Yep.
like, oh, I can do like weird stuff and get away with it, weird makeup, weird costumes, whatever. But
Right.
yeah, like it's fascinating to see how Halloween has its grip on us and it's still like pretty relevant. And the younger generations
Absolutely.
are,
Yeah.
kids as young as 5, 6 are like planning their activities around that day, in addition to our
Right.
regular festivals like Diwali and all. So,
Right.
storytelling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 Definitely.
Uh, I was thinking about another thing was, how you mentioned pumpkin spice latte has become like a product. So on a
Hmm.
large scale, a global audience who probably does not even celebrate that still finds some resonance with that. But
Right.
if you see maybe because you've worked with luxury brands like Gucci, etc., you don't necessarily see these brands capitalize on these products or hop onto trends per se.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think partially it could be because they are trendsetters themselves. Like if you see like a fashion show or a runway and you see a model wearing a particular thing, whether it is, by Gucci or by, some of our Indian designers like Manish Malhotra and Praval Gurung or whatever it is,
Right.
um,
Right.
they always tend to do what they feel is right for the brand. And they are not
Hmm.
necessarily dictated by what the common man is liking or preferring, etc. Or in fact, even
Correct.
celebrity culture for that matter, because I feel like celebrities tend to listen to the stylist or the designer more than the other way around. It's not vice versa.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
in your experience working with these luxury brands, first of all, how was it? First, working with Gucci sounds crazy on paper. And second, did you see any difference in terms of storytelling when it came to luxury brands versus other Indian brands or magazines that you've worked with?
Um, yeah, there are obviously going to be differences. I think two parts of the conversation. The first part that you were talking about, the fact that they don't jump onto trends or fads. Devil Wears Prada, that Miranda Priestley monologue about cerulean is a very a, an absolutely apt understanding of how fashion works. That it is the maisons up top. There's also a hierarchy of um, luxury, premium, high street brands, right?
Yeah.
It is the luxury legacy, maisons, houses, right? We
Hmm.
can't even refer to them as brands. We refer to them as maisons or houses, who are deciding where fashion is going to go, and it is then taken ahead by the top magazines in the world, of course, in fashion. That is Vogue, that is GQ, that is Vogue Italia. who are taking that ahead, and then it is trickling down, right? Like for example, socks and slides was done on the ramp by Balenciaga, if I'm not wrong. And today, for example, you have those same Easys, for example. Easy did that before that. Today, for example, you see slides have trickled down and are being sold from Bata to Bewakoof to Urban Monkey. Everyone is selling that, right? Because
Yeah.
that fashion trend, and because of social media, also it's very important to understand that the speed at which a style or a look uh, travels from, say, a Louis Vuitton ramp to me, for example, or to someone staying at even a tier three, tier four city in India is much faster today than it used to be, say, 10 years ago. So hence people realize that, oh, this is what is trending. That like and in India, for example, this has been in India, we have also been guided by our cinema. Hindi cinema has been very, very important in deciding the fashion trends of the season. I'll give you a very simple and a very quick example. In Tu Jhuti Main Makkar, Ranbir Kapoor wore that sequin blue kurta,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then everybody for this is, I think, the second Diwali that everywhere you see it's Georgette or chiffon. It is embroidered in machine chicken curry, and there is sequins. Everybody is wearing it. Women are wearing it. Men are wearing it. It's all over the place. So the point is, and so I live in Lokhandwala in Bombay, right?
Yeah.
Lokhandwala for me is the litmus test of what is trending right now. I love it. I'll give you another very quick example. For the Ambani wedding, Deepika Padukone wore a purple sari. That purple was everywhere on Lokhandwala 3 days after that. The point is that this is, and the reason why it's there is because people, they know that people will see the sari, people will want the sari, people will want this purple. Purple will be a color that will be important, right? So that is how celebrities in our country are cinema and celebrities, excuse me, internationally maisons. That is how that is decided, right? And that trickle down effect classically happens across the board. I have worked extensively with Louis Vuitton on a bunch of campaigns and editorial campaigns, editorial campaigns, with them in India. And also the fact that I was one of those very few fashion, journalists, for example, if I could put it, who were given the opportunity to travel to another country and do a shoot abroad. Like I did it in Tokyo. It was fabulous, where I had the whole spring summer Louis Vuitton collection for that year available to me, and I shot on the streets. It still is one of my favorite shoots, one of my most amazing experiences. It was fantastic. Um, it worked so well for them that they continued a relationship with us and specifically me for the next 2 years, where I kind of helped in bringing Badshah and Louis Vuitton together, where it was Louis Vuitton was very clear that we want to work with a music celebrity, and I was like, hey, let's do it with Badshah because I think the energy would be fun, and that was, I think, in 2022, if I'm not wrong. So what is always exciting for me is the fact that, especially when we're talking about maisons like this, is that, like you rightfully said, they don't need to fall back on trends. They don't need to measure spending with immediate ROI because they have the luxury, quote unquote, the luxury of
Pun
telling
intended.
stories, pun intended, of telling stories. They have the luxury of artistry. They have the luxury of celebrating imagery and experimenting, right? Which is the
Yeah.
reason why it is a lot of fun when you're given that opportunity. That would be the most satisfying part of it. The negative is that when you're working with an international brand, the hierarchy of approval is going to kill you because it will go on for weeks on end because it goes from India to zonal to international, and then it comes back with feedback, and then it goes back. It's an up and it keeps going up and down. But that luxury is refreshing because I've worked extensively editorially and advertorially on campaigns with brands across the board in India, and for if you're not a luxury, and in India, for example, it's the same case. when I'm talking about the luxury segment. So in the luxury segment, for example, it's the same case if you're working with Sabyasachi, you've got the luxury to tell stories, right?
Yeah.
It's the same case, for example, if you're working with a Manish, you're doing a campaign with Tarun. It's again, you've got that. But otherwise, for everybody else, it's like, to we're doing the shoot. It has to be, amplified. Uh, what was the sale like? How was the shoot utilized? It boils down to that. And that is, while that is an integral part of the business, um, for anyone who's a storyteller, after a certain point, you're just like, yeah, I'm just, there's no creative satisfaction in this. So, yeah. So, and I've done across the board. I've worked with LV on one side, I've worked with fast fashion brands like Westside on the other side. So, I've
Yeah.
done the whole gamut of it. And always try to, even when we are always talking sales and ROI, I still try to infuse as much storytelling as I can, because if there's no storytelling, I will just lose interest at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Yeah, and without storytelling, without a story or anything, like without context, I guess would be a better word. You're not sold
Right.
on things, right? Like there are so many, especially in today's day and age, you have
Mhm.
substitutes for everything, or you
Right.
call it dupes or alternatives or whatever. But
Right.
out
Right.
of 100 choices, maybe one or two stick out to you and call your name. And there's a reason
Right.
for it. And that's because, like you mentioned, there is a story attached to it, or whatever, they have a certain credibility attached to them, like the maisons, the
Mhm.
legacy
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
is cemented in people's minds unintentionally or intentionally, where they feel like they are investing in a LV bag rather than seeing it as an expensive purchase. So there's
Correct.
such a
Yeah.
mindset shift also, even in a daily consumer, when they want to consume brands like Westside, which are obviously high quality products, but they're much more affordable as compared to a LV or a Gucci or etc.
Of course, of course. It's also like how, how a Sabyasachi, for example, today has taken ownership of weddings, right? That today, for example, in India,
Yeah,
the color red, which till, for example, 10 years back was symbolized, it stood for, how should I put it? It stood for marriage, but it also stood for everything that symbolizes a bride. Today, for example, the color red, the first resonance is Sabyasachi. So the point is, that is the power of storytelling. That is the power of ownership. That is the power of visual narrative building. And any brand that is doing it, however big or small they may be, they will enjoy that sort of credibility and market fandom. Like, for example, Sold Store. Sold Store, we all saw the journey of Sold Store. Sold Store just established themselves as, you want the coolest merch in town, it's going to be with us.
yeah,
Do you not find Harry Potter or Pokemon or Manchester United merch anywhere else? Of course you do. But the first brand that comes to your mind is Soul Store, purely because they have been able to establish it, and also very importantly, it's not just about establishing the claim to the narrative. You have to back it up with quality. If you don't, today Sabyasachi backs it up with quality. Today LV
yeah,
backs it up with quality. If you don't back it up with quality, you just fall flat on your face. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
yeah. That's very true. And when you mention about the wedding things, like how Sabyasachi kind of owns the color red in a way, like the first thought
Right.
is Sabyasachi. What's funny is, again, when it comes to narrative, we have seen a lot of Bollywood celebrities or Bollywood brides, especially, lean towards pastel shades, pastel lehengas, pastel
Mm.
saris, whatever. And this whole trend was going on with a few breaks, maybe from some of the South Indian actresses who kind of
Mm.
decided to go for a traditional wedding, which is more rooted in their culture. Like Shobita
Hmm.
Dhulipala also, she had um, an engagement ceremony recently, and she opted for a very simple sari. Like it was not embellished,
Right.
sequined. It was not those heavy studded lehengas, the almost white lehengas that the other celebrities were wearing.
Right.
Which
Right.
obviously, there's no point of comparing, like which is better than the other. But
Mm.
again, trends shift, storytelling. So red is has always been associated with Indian brides. But to
Correct.
see people taking a break from red
Mm.
intentionally, and say that I want to wear a light green or a light or a mint, whatever, mint, light pink lehenga, sari.
Of
It's
course.
that also is influential because of storytelling, right? Like even Sabyasachi did that with Katrina, I feel like
Yeah,
the
yeah, of
second
course.
outfit that she wore
He did it
was much more
he did it with
pastel.
Aditi. Even Aditi Rao Hydari's that was also
Yeah,
Sabyasachi.
Aditi and
That
Siddharth's
was
attire was
yeah,
also
yeah, yeah.
pretty much it
Yeah,
was
that was
cream.
beige. It was
That
cream and beige. Yeah, yeah.
beige. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess maybe in that sense, don't you think like Sabyasachi also, decided to kind of shift the narrative for themselves too, because they know that they have a grip on people when it comes to red. But now they made a conscious decision of curating bridal couture, which is
Right.
more geared towards the pastel side of things.
See, very honestly, the idea is uh, Sabyasachi's idea is to have a market monopoly on weddings. So whatever kind of wedding you want. Also, we need to remember that uh, this whole trend of celebrity weddings blowing up on social media was started by Virat Kohli and Anushka Sharma. And
Yeah.
Anushka Sharma wore pastel. She wore pastel pink. So it wasn't the blow up wasn't with red. Red very dominantly was worn by Deepika and Priyanka for that whole massive ass walk that she had in this whole
Oh yeah,
red
and
situation.
yeah, even Nayanthara
Yeah,
with the layered
Nentara. Correct,
necklace, emerald
exactly.
necklace. Yeah.
Right. So the point is that it is about having for Sabyasachi, it is now that that ownership on the color red was done, which see celebrities have the luxury of also experimenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens is for majority of India and Sabyasachi's clientele, they know that and I really love to break down because back in 2019, 2018, and 2019, back at Mansfield, we had done a wedding special issue, and I was adamant about starting it purely because I had seen a research paper which said that the wedding industry is in 2018 made more money than Bollywood. And I was like, we are missing out on advertisers and money because this is a ginormous market. And I love studying the wedding market. I love it because I think it is such an exciting and interesting beast. What we need to understand is the fact that today an Aditi Rao Hedri or a Sobita Dhulipala can very easily wear something simple because this is not the fanciest garment they are wearing in their lives. This is
Hmm.
also not going to be the fanciest garment they will wear for the rest of their lives. For a lot of people, the wedding that they have is where they are peaking. It is very unfortunate. But the reason why people spend so much on their weddings and they turn their weddings into such circuses right now, and I might be coming at it with a certain sense of judgment, but for a lot of people, it is going to be the highlight. That is the first time, and unfortunately, the last time maybe they're going to feel like an absolute celebrity in their spaces, right? They're getting that kind of eyeballs.
Yeah.
So Visachi knows very well that they are not going to be wearing pastels for that. They will be going all out. So he's taken ownership of that. And
Hmm.
along with that, he's giving you other options so that when it comes to weddings, whether it's pastel pinks or whether it's bright reds, you're going for Sabyasachi. That's the way you take ownership. That's how, for example, you set trends that you can wear
Hmm.
pastels also. That's how luxury maisons set that trend. And then after that, you go to Sarojini or you go to Lajpat or you come to Lokhandwala and all of those Sabyasachi dupes and all of those Manish Malhotra dupes are available to you because that
Yeah.
trend has trickled down, right? It's trickled down and it's available now. So you can choose whatever you want. But the core idea of that
Hmm.
ownership is that I want to look like a Sabyasachi bride while I'm not wearing Sabyasachi because maybe that's not something I'm going to be able to.
Yeah, makes sense. Again, aspirational. So the closest thing that you can do to achieve that dream is
Exactly.
finding an
Exactly.
alternative. Yeah.
Correct.
You had mentioned Deepika's dress, which blew up, right, at the Ambani wedding,
Right.
the purple sari.
The purple
That
sari.
was
Yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah.
pretty. And even I remember, like everyone was, taking screenshots of that particular image, or there was whatever, like a video leaked from the wedding, and everyone was like, this is
Right, right,
definitely
right.
the next color of the season, and calling it
Right,
whatnot.
right, right. Yeah.
And that again, like I realized that a lot of my fashion inspo like me and a lot of people nowadays, in fact, we turn to a digital medium, whether it's
Of
Pinterest,
course.
Google Images. I
Yeah.
mean, Google Images literally was invented because of JLo's dress, right? Like there was a mass demand
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
people, they were like, what is that
Right.
dress? Where is she?
Right.
Whatever. And yeah, so since then, obviously, there has been an overwhelming amount of time that people spend online, either for
Mm.
shopping, for trends, for even reels also are such a influencers are a primary source of inspo for a lot of people.
Right.
Now, compare it to maybe a couple of years back when, I remember even if I stop by at an airport, I'm
Mm.
sure to pick up like a Femina or
Yep. Yep.
a Cosmo or whatever. Just buy
Right.
it, flip through the pages, feel the glossiness, get excited over the HD quality photo shoots and the beautiful models, and be like, oh my God, this is what they're wearing. This is
Mm.
the photo destination, blah blah blah. So there has again been such a shift. So do you think print in that essence has kind of had a slow death? Because we rarely see people pick up a magazine like a Vogue magazine. I don't know how many people are actually picking up a physical copy and saying that, did you read that issue? As opposed to maybe sharing a Vogue article on WhatsApp and saying that, oh my God, they've listed the top 5 fashion icons of all time. Like, what do you think?
Correct. Absolutely. See, the thing is that very honestly, back in 2018 itself, I am someone who, to just give a sense, I'm someone who always likes to study where industries are going, industries I understand. And because I dabble with a bunch of them, it's also very important for me to exercise the part of my brain that will allow me to be foresighted because, well, I'm surviving in those industries. Back in 2018, 2019, I had that sense that we are plateauing and it would be roughly about 10 years. The pandemic kind of sped that up. So today, for example, it is very, very true that print people see. Also, we need to understand that people don't read anymore. All right,
Yeah.
our attention spans are horrendously bad. We barely read. If you're not reading, people don't read online. To have that expectation that people are going to be buying a book and sorry, I mean a magazine. We call them books, but buying a magazine and then and reading it is outlandish. I've seen circulations for all magazines. I've seen the figures drop, over the years. So yes, that it's inevitable that the magazine hard copy is really not what is driving the magazine's identity anymore. The magazine
Hmm.
today, every magazine today has they've had to turn themselves into content production companies or agencies where they are all producing content. They all want
Yeah.
views and clicks. They need people to follow and engage and all of that. So the experience is very, very digital, and that is the future. Like there is really no ways of denying that. It's it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I guess it's a little sad also because I've seen the whole people not reading things anymore. And as a
Yeah,
reader and a writer myself, even though, I mean, to confess, my reading habits have also taken a large hit. But like at my very core, I still am a reader and I enjoy reading.
right,
But a lot of
right, right,
people are very visual driven or video driven, and they just don't necessarily take the time out to read things. So yeah, it's a
correct.
little sad because print, I don't know, it has a charm of its own. Like if I see a big billboard, as opposed
Hmm.
to maybe that billboard being rehashed into a paid ad that is there when I'm scrolling through a website, the billboard hits harder. Or it's like, it's more attention grabbing, I guess, in a way. At least for me,
Right,
speaking from a personal experience. It
right.
becomes a little impersonal that way, you're just putting out like content and hoping that people will watch it. But
But
how much
I think that
interaction is
is
actually happening?
right. But that is this is the question that all the brands I work with ask me that we'll be spending on social media, but how much interaction is actually happening? See, the point is that, and I always respond by saying that the quality of that interaction will depend on the quality of your content. So the
Yeah.
thing is, see, I come from being an exclusively I was exclusively a print journalist, right? And then I've
Hmm.
had to transition to print and digital. and then becoming, digital forward, print, having that balance. Um, and I am, vociferously, I'm a reader. I write actively. This is the space that I'm in. Um, I try to read. Everyone's reading. Very honestly, everyone's reading habits have gone for a toss. Like I used to be able to do 4 books in a month. Today, for
Mhm.
example, right now, 2 books sometimes become a struggle. Right. So
Yeah.
while it is all of that, I don't like. I know a lot of people tell me this that it has a charm of its own and all of that. But my point is, see, it's evolution, right? You can't do anything about it. There is no reason to be cynical or nostalgic about it because the world will evolve. The world will evolve, right? Today, for example, back there was this episode that I thought was very very relevant, where Phil and Claire, they say that the kids can't use any gadgets for a whole day, and Alex had a test at school, and she had to refer to an encyclopedia which had obsolete information, which is the reason
Mhm.
why she got a minus B grade. That's the point, right? That the point is that today, for example, if I tell somebody that, hey, you know what, I'm going to take your cell phone off you, and then you're on your own. You know, to figure out where you want to go, what you want to do. We've all become so accustomed, and it is accustomed because very honestly, the whole idea and the idea of progress is to make lives easier, right? That I should
Yeah.
be if I want a medical appointment to be able to make a payment to go somewhere, I need to be able to do this fast. So when it comes to storytelling, it needs to evolve. If the evolution, for example, is going to be a 1 minute a reel, find out the most effective way of telling a story in 1 minute. There is no point in saying, "Oh, those were the days when life was so fantastic." Honey, that those days are gone. We live in today, so it's best to work for today and build for the future. So yeah, like that's what I meant by at the very start when I said that you need to have an attitudinal or a cultural um, shift in
Yeah.
magazines, in brands. That is what I meant. That if you cannot roll with the times and understand where the world is going and still fall back and be like, no, you know what, I want to go back to the times when I could write a 3,000, 4,000 words story which ran for 6 pages. No one's reading. It's pointless. Move on.
Mm.
Find a more effective way to tell that story. It could be a podcast, it could be a vlog. Find it. The opportunities are there, right? It's not like opportunities are not there for you.
Yeah.
So find a more effective way to tell that story. It's if you're a storyteller, you will find your medium. It's as simple as that. I try to practice that every day. Otherwise, by the age of 30, I would have been obsolete. It's as simple as that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really thoughtful answer and makes sense. And again, like I said, it's really I think surreal in a way to see, because as you
Mhm.
said, you were a print journalist, a hardcore print journalist. This transition definitely was not easy, but you also had
Not at
to
all.
adapt. Brands had to adapt,
Yeah.
and
And I'm
there have
surrounded,
been
very
huge
honestly,
losses. Yeah,
yeah, and very honestly, I'm surrounded by journalists who did not adapt.
yeah.
And I know what that is like, and I'm glad that very honestly that I have that bone in my body to be able to,
Mhm.
because it is very easy to not. It is very easy. See, the point is that at the core of it, whether I was a journalist or whether today, for example, like I write for films, or whether I'm a content producer, whether I'm a brand architect, at the core of it, I'm a storyteller. So I will always actively find ways to tell my story.
Mhm.
If someone at the core of it is just a journalist,
Mhm.
right, then that road can only lead so much if you refuse to evolve to the new formats of journalism in today's day and age. That is the difference. That's about it. Nothing
Yeah,
else.
that becomes limiting. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
yeah. As a part of this shift that we have seen, where brands who did adopt these, whether it's a digital medium trends, finding new platforms or mediums of connecting
Mhm.
with people and building their brand and building the audience. I think influencer partnerships have like grown by a manifold in the last couple of years, especially since lockdown happened. And influencers again is something which I think the Gen Z audience resonates more with. They understand a lot because a lot of influencers are Gen Z themselves, obviously millennials too, but
Right, right, right.
whether it's the funny TikTok dances to the beauty tutorials to like the transition fashion videos, whatever you want to call it,
Right, right,
it's
right, right.
predominantly Gen Z. But we've
Correct.
also seen, celebrities again endorsing brands or sometimes even being bigger than a brand. For example,
Mhm.
Janvi Kapoor is very synonymous with Nykaa. Alia was recently inducted as a brand ambassador for L'Oreal, which
L'Oreal, yeah.
I saw garnered mixed reviews. Like her
Mhm.
personality does not match the brand. She has more bubbly, a look and feel, and she's much younger. L'Oreal is like a little bit more legacy. Deepika would have
Mhm.
suited. There were polarizing opinions. So,
Right.
do you think that sometimes either because the brand wants that credibility which can be brought in by an influencer or celebrity, it in fact dilutes them or their storytelling, or is it actually helpful? Like, what do you think?
See, I think it completely depends on what is the purpose of the endorsement. Whether you are working with celebrities or you're working with influencers, what is the purpose? Do you just want, see, the point is that celebrities are the OG influencers or opinion leaders, right? Celebrity endorsement is the
Yeah.
blueprint for influencer activation. So this has happened forever. It's not nothing new. We know that getting celebrities to sell from Surf Excel to Rin to Nirma to Panparag, um, like why on earth is Panparag using Ajay Devgan plus Akshay plus Shahrukh? They, can you imagine the amount of money that is being spent on that? It must be working. Whatever their intention is, it must be
Mhm.
working for them. So now the point is that when you have, say, for example, a budget of say 50 lakhs, right, for influencer activation, and by influencer I also include celebrities in that. You have to decide whether I want that one big, ginormous amount of noise. So I take those 50 lakhs and go directly to just one celebrity and do the campaign and ambassadorship. Or do I need, for example, I want to target the tier three cities of a certain space. So I will go to nano influencers of that space. I want to target, say for example, the micro influencers of a certain space. I'll go to them, and then I pick 2 to 3 macro influencers for pan India buzz. So that depends on strategy, right?
Yeah.
It purely depends on that. So today, for example, if I were say I am a brand like say VS Money or Sweet Karam Coffee or ID, for example, the brands
Mhm.
that have idli premixes, banana chips, filter coffee premixes, and blah blah blah, all of that. Do I want to get, say, a Ramcharan or a Prabhas and do a pan-India ginormous campaign, or is it that my target audience primarily lies in Bombay and Bangalore and Chennai? Hence, I get nano influencers and macro influencers in these cities and activate that with geo targeting. It depends on that.
Yeah.
So the point is how you want to activate endorsements, be it influencers or celebrities will depend purely on what your marketing intention is. What do you want out of it? With very honestly, with whether a celebrity works or not, see, works or not is a whole different ball game. At the end of the day, you are not buying a shampoo, and
Mhm.
by that, what I mean is, just because Aishwarya was selling L'Oreal till now, it's not that wasn't the reason why you were buying L'Oreal. Very
Correct.
honestly, if, for example, you go to your salon and your hairdresser, whom you trust blindly, he or she is the only person you ask for that person. If that person says, or that salon of yours is now starting to stock, I don't know, like Schwarzkopf or someone else, you will shift to that,
Hmm.
right? It is not because, oh my God, it is Aishwarya. Aishwarya's been the L'Oreal, and ambassador for I think almost 10 years now. The
Yeah,
point is that
for quite a long time. Yeah.
so if, for example, Aishwarya was enough, then why are they going for Alia? The fact that today everybody knows that Alia is, ambassador or it's Alia ex L'Oreal, maybe that
Hmm.
was all L'Oreal's intention, right? That they
Yeah.
needed to be the talk or be a part of that conversation all over again, and they achieved it. Are you going to necessarily go and buy shampoo just because Alia Bhatt uses the same shampoo? No, very honestly, in my experience, because I've extensively worked with all the celebrities, there is I'm not going to name anybody, but there is only one celebrity in the whole of Bollywood who uses the products he endorses. There is
Okay.
only one celebrity. Nobody else does. So if anyone is falling for it, I don't know who's falling for it. I really don't know. Because I know that, for example, in tier three, tier four, tier five, tier six markets, people are very visual. People are in general visual driven. They go
Yeah.
by Neela wala dena, wo hara wala dena. They go by that,
Hmm.
right? So for example, then you have brands that take an ownership of a category. Like for example, the word surf is ownership of the whole category of washing powders.
Yeah.
So when someone, for example, in a tier five or a tier six or rural area is saying surf, that person does not necessarily mean Surf Excel. That person is very happy with Nirma or Rin. The person wants to buy a washing powder, right? So the point is
Hmm.
that there are multiple ways by which that happens, and uh, I like the thing is also what we need to understand is the endorsement to a very large extent is about pumping in new energy and new bringing the brand back into public conversation. Like for example, if you remember the Pepsi and the Coke ads, they used to be
Hmm.
ginormous campaigns. Did Pepsi or Coke really need those that kind of celebrity endorsement? No, because Pepsi, Coke, Thumbs Up, Mountain Dew, we are constantly consuming. Very honestly, there are very few people who are loyalists. You will go to a restaurant, you say, "Hey, I want Coke." They'll say, "नहीं, हम Coke का कुछ भी हम stock नहीं करते." So they'll be
Hmm.
like, "You know what? But Pepsi है." You will be like, "हाँ, okay, give it to me."
Correct.
Maybe over the course of time, what has happened is you might be finicky about the original Pepsi and maybe or the original Coke, and maybe you want a diet or a zero. Maybe that's something you're finicky about. But other than that, most people aren't.
Hmm.
Some people might be finicky about thumbs up. That's about it. Do you really need a Salman Khan to be selling thumbs up for you to be consuming it? No. But that one ad, the Amir Khan campaigns for Coca-Cola, for example, those
Yeah.
ads, every Diwali they would come up. Suddenly Pepsi would do a campaign with Shahrukh plus Saurav Ganguly, Sachin Tendulkar together coming and all that. Why? Just to bring the brand back into conversation. So
Hmm.
that is the role of celebrities, and that is the role of macro influencers. The job is to just bring the brand back into conversation and look at the amount of time we've spent discussing L'Oreal. So Alia Bhatt was successful, I guess, in that manner, right? So
Yeah,
it's
I
just
guess
that.
it was successful. And the reason to rope in Alia, perhaps, like you said, was again to it was a way of L'Oreal to stay relevant and appeal to the younger audience. Because
Correct,
Aishwarya, I
correct,
mean, she's obviously accomplished and she has an amazing repertoire to her name. But when was
right.
the last time anyone, I mean, apart from Ponniyin Selvan, which came, that was again a Tamil movie. She's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
done a
No, I'm
major
correct.
Bollywood movie for people to
Absolutely.
fawn over her again, as compared
No,
to
and
an
it's
Alia.
also correct. And also the point is, see, there will always be the requirement that you will get a celebrity whom the current, the generation that will have the maximum amount of spending power, or the generation more than that, that is engaging with content the most, you want somebody, a celebrity or an influencer, whom they either relate to or engage with, or yeah, relate to or engage with. Like very honestly, it is not like if you go by Reddit and if you go by Jigra, it is not like Alia is necessarily enjoying a lot of love among
Right
people
now.
right
Yeah.
now, right? But the point is, she is what is very interesting about marketing is the fact that she even if you're not even if there's no love, she's still relevant. She's still a part of the pop culture conversation.
Hmm.
So when she wears that beautiful silver breastplate outfit and in the look that she was in, and she walked the ramp and all of that, he is still a part of that relevant conversation, right? So it just made
Yeah.
sense. What is also very interesting is the fact that Aishwarya also right now is a part of pop culture conversation, albeit for a very different reason, but she
Yeah.
is also a part of pop culture conversation. So for L'Oreal, if you think about it, it was a double whammy. For people who are following Aishwarya's conversation, they are following Aishwarya. Their For You page on Instagram is going to have a lot of Aishwarya. They will see this. For people
Hmm.
who are hating, quote unquote, on Alia, they'll end up seeing this. It's done. It's not necessary that they're going to go and buy the shampoo, but L'Oreal is a part of their top of mind recall. So that's exactly what celebrities are for. Love them or hate them, it is about utilizing them if they are enjoying a pop culture moment at the point. That's it.
Yeah, as I say, I mean, as long as it gets people talking, chai pe charcha, like how we
Yeah,
both are
yeah.
discussing it right now.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. I very honestly believe no kind of publicity is bad publicity, and no kind of marketing is bad
I've heard
marketing.
that a lot.
That's it.
No kind of publicity is
Yeah, yeah,
bad
yeah.
publicity.
At all, at all. I really, really don't think so. The point is that if at the end of the day all you want is for people to talk about you, then no kind of publicity is bad publicity. Simple as that.
Hmm, true.
There are a couple of examples I could give, but I don't think I should. There would be, I really don't think I should. But yeah, there are very
Okay.
solid examples for that. So yeah.
Do you think, right now also we have discussed, I think, a lot of celebrities and we have name dropped
Mhm.
like crazy.
Yeah,
And the fashion industry or the lifestyle space that you've been a part of for so long tends to be obviously centered around celebrities, like you said, because they are like a North Star
right,
in a way, right? Whether it's a
right, right.
campaign or a shoot or,
Nicely put.
setting
Yeah.
fashion trends, anything it kind of revolves around them, trickles back to them. But have you ever felt that maybe working in a magazine, you could probably cover issues which are a little bit more non-celebrity related or a little bit more rooted or relevant to other Indian issues that are persisting or pertaining to the common man? Have you ever felt that kind of thing? Or maybe a slight disconnect, that beyond a point, celebrity culture becomes very superficial. So the real issues are perhaps being brushed under a rug in pursuit of just talking about these things.
Okay, so number one, there are different magazines that will talk about different things. Okay, so
Yeah.
if for example today on one side you have Outlook that will
Mhm.
talk about politics, um, uh, that will talk about academic, you know, that will be academic in its approach, research based in its approach, actively talks about politics. On the other hand, you have Vogue that actively talks about fashion, right?
Yeah.
Now the thing is that Outlook is talking about what it's talking about also because Outlook has a target audience and Outlook has readership. Vogue is talking about what it's talking about because Vogue has its TG and readership. Um, Outlook's writers are also writing for Outlook. Vogue's writers are also writing for Vogue. Outlook's target audience is not Vogue's, and Vogue's TG is not Outlook's. So
Hmm.
the point is that Vogue will write about when you pick up Vogue, you're making that active um, you know um, it's I don't want to say effort, but it's like it is an action that is already deciding that this is a certain kind of content I want to consume,
It's like an
right?
instinct, I guess.
See, more than instinct, it is a very how should I put it, it's a it's a it's a preference driven action, right? That if
Okay.
I'm picking up, for example, if I pick up Outlook and I pick up Open and I pick up Caravan, for example, I am making a conscious effort to read about things that are in a certain category. If I pick up Vogue and I pick up Femina and I pick up Elle, for example, I am making a conscious effort that this is what I want to read about. So I am making that effort to decide on, the content.
Yeah.
Having said that, it is not that magazines. See, very honestly, fashion lifestyle magazines are not going to be talking about grassroots issues, the common man's problems, because these are aspirational labels. You are
Hmm.
picking that book up to see, oh my God, how fabulous is Zendaya looking in something, or I want to look like this. I need tips and tricks. I want to understand how to get my mascara right, or I want to understand how to, what's the best, way to buy a shirt, blah, blah, blah. These are the kind of things you want to know about. Hence, you're picking up these books. If
Yeah.
you want to know about farmer suicides, pick up a very different kind of book or log into a very different kind of website and read that. So the point is the idea also what has happened is that for fashion and lifestyle magazines, they have been boiled down or defined by the covers that they do. People
Hmm.
don't open the books because no one's opening the book. Neither do people actively go to the websites and read the different things that they talk about, because everyone's actively writing about pop culture. People are interviewing directors, writers, artists, theater, textile, culture, relationships, mental health, is writing about all of that. Like, for example, I was very clear that when I became an associate editor at Man's World, I was like, it's already called Man's World, for crying out loud. The magazine will open with one page dedicated to a woman who's in the news in this month. And I don't need her to be, an actress or a model. I don't need her to be in swimwear. I don't need her to be objectified. I was very, very clear about that. I want to
Wow.
start with a one page with a woman who's making news for the work she's doing. And then after that, it was 6 pages where I would curate something called On the Radar, on about books, shows, artists, influencer content,
Mm.
interesting content curators, fashion brands for that matter, who were on my radar for that month. Right. So the point is that the magazine is already starting with a very different tonality where there are no celebrities. And that would then follow with a four pages on a director. That is also something I was very clear that uh, we start with a director. We talk about someone who's making a product, making a film, making a
Yeah.
piece of art, and not just about the stars. So we were very, very clear. And then after that, we went into cars and bikes and all of that. So that's the thing, that a magazine always only unfortunately gets reduced to the cover
Mm.
and the fashion editorials. There is a lot more to our magazines. I just wish people, read them more. And, I just really wish people read them more. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I hope in the trends that come back, reading is one of them. And people suddenly become avid readers and they're like, oh my God, have you read this novel? Book clubs,
From what do they say? From your lips to his ears, or something like that. I think in Hindi, this is something beautiful, like ghee shakkar. I think I totally believe. I hope something like that happens. But very honestly, not to be cynical or negative, I don't see that happening at all.
Yeah,
But
it's a very difficult change, because again,
uh,
everyone either, I don't know, it's not just laziness, but it's also convenience, and everyone is always on the go. So listening or seeing
yep, yep,
content
yep.
is far more enjoyable than actually reading a book, which becomes more cumbersome that way, or a magazine also for that matter.
Yeah, but it's also about how we are bringing up. I don't want to sound really really old right now, but it's also about how we are bringing up children, right? Like when
Yeah,
my generation was growing up, what was our source of entertainment? Reading books, story books. Reading a book was a source of entertainment, right?
yeah.
We like my parents were very clear that there would be only 1 hour of Cartoon Network every single day and nothing more than that. Most families would try to restrict the amount of time kids would watch TV, also because there was barely anything to watch. Like I am really talking about a time when there was like DD1, DD Metro, Star Plus, Z TV, and Sony came a little later. So the point is that when we were growing up, really what you listen to music,
Yeah.
cassettes. My God, I'm sounding very
Oh,
old now.
throwback.
Yeah, it's major throwback. But that's the thing. Entertainment was reading books, listening to music, playing sports out there, and whatever you could possibly watch on TV. The point is today, for example, I'll go to restaurants and I'll see parents are just all looking so hassled because, and the moment the child starts, screaming or shouting, they just place them with a cell phone, with it playing
Hmm.
something to distract them. We do that with dogs. The thing is that when a dog, for example, is really barking at something, or the dog is really tugging at your sock or something, you just distract the dog with a ball and the dog just goes away. That's how we are treating our children these days. We are bringing them up with the dependency of screen. After that, suddenly at the age of like 18, 20, you can't tell them, hey, why aren't you reading? They are not going to be reading. They don't know what it is to enjoy or get enjoyment from a book. I really want,
Yeah.
I think I really want an author to pull a J.K. Rowling and make a Harry Potter like phenomenon happen again, where kids had FOMO. If, like, for example, if you didn't read the latest book the moment it came out, like I'm not even. I don't even introduce myself as a Potterhead. I say I'm a wizard. I was that. I still am that. Where the book, if I know the book is coming on so and so date, I have like advanced block it with whichever bookstore and later crossword and all of that. I really hope someone does that because we haven't had a phenomenon like that in the reading world, at least in this country, since Harry Potter for children and young adults. The last time we had that kind of phenomenon, it was actually for adults. It was Fifty Shades of Grey, very honestly, where
Oh,
everybody was reading that book, and that was
yeah,
for adults.
50
For
Shades.
kids, we've not had that. Hunger Games and Narnia, that did not come with that kind of firepower to India. It happened abroad, of course. So, yeah. So I think that is the only way it will come back. Otherwise, I don't see any reason. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's wishful thinking, but that's also good thinking. And I think that's the most logical thinking also that you can think of right now is
Yeah, yeah,
having that
absolutely.
kind of wave again where kids,
Yeah,
really feel that FOMO or they just feel that inner need to just pick up a book and be like, मुझे ये पढ़ना है, मुझे video नहीं देखना. I just want to actually read what's
correct,
inside. Yeah,
correct.
because I mean, fellow Potterhead myself, I have
Hmm.
also, I remember literally waiting to read all of the books, seeing the movies, collect
Absolutely,
merch. I've read the books like 7 times. I'm not at all ashamed about it. It's like it redefined a lot of childhood. So yeah, we need
absolutely. Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah, we do. Yeah.
We do. Okay, Anish, I'll just pick up a couple of questions from our community.
Oh, yeah, sure,
So
absolutely.
yeah, we have quite a lot actually, but I'll only be able to pick a handful since we're running out of time.
No, no, not at
Um,
all. Please.
Lavanya is asking if you could invent a totally new fashion category. Example, like not streetwear or athleisure, but something else. What would it be and how would it change the industry? You
Mm,
seem stumped.
a fashion category. Don't we? See, I am a very strong. Wow. Okay. I'm a very strong believer of slow fashion, thrifting, upcycling, and sustainability. I think we
Hmm.
have enough. Please, for crying out loud, I think we have enough fashion on this planet. We don't need any more. So, I would definitely not invent more. I would rather say what is already existing. We should invent new ways of making the fashion industry more sustainable. We should
Yeah.
invent ways by which today fashion waste, for example, how can it be turned back into making products out of them. Today, you wear a t-shirt barely like say for example, like I'll give you an example very quickly. Again, going back like 10, 15 years, we would shop roughly in this country about twice a year. Like I'm Bengali, so shopping for me would be either during the Bengali New Year, which was
Hmm.
very, very little, not too much, and Durga Puja. Before Durga Puja is when you do major amount of shopping. For a lot
Yeah.
of, for example, North Indians, the major amount of shopping is before Diwali, right? And that is how it used to be. Before
Hmm.
online shopping came into the picture, and right now we shop constantly, right? So earlier, for example, if you're shopping once or twice a year, you realize the longevity of a garment is at least a year. Today, for example, the
Hmm.
longevity of a garment is about 3 to 4 months. We crash it, it goes somewhere, it just lies there, you don't know what's happening. We need to invent ways by which that fashion waste it comes back as a fresh new product. For me, for example, one of the most important things that I love doing is I love raiding my mother's sari collection. Saris that she does not wear, have not worn at least in the last 10 years, 5 years, does not have
Yeah.
any emotional attachment to. I turn them into kurtas, I turn them into pajamas, I turn them into jackets for
Hmm.
myself because otherwise it's just going to lie there. It's just going
True.
to be lying there, and I'm just going to go out there and buy that same garment. So it just makes a lot more sense for me to upcycle that, utilize that, and I believe that our local tailors should be supported. So, like, very honestly, this question is incorrect for me purely because 75 to 80% of my wardrobe is it has been sewn by me, by a local tailor, as it's been created by me. I go,
Oh,
I
wow.
buy fabric, I get my clothes done. I wish I could get t-shirts sewn, but this t-shirt, for example, the one that I'm wearing, it actually
Hmm.
was just a plain blue t-shirt. After a while with my t-shirts, I kind of when you kind of get bored and you want to give it a little bit of new life, bleach tie-dye them, and it's a whole new t-shirt altogether.
Wow.
So that's what I do. And that's how, for example, the t-shirt you extend. the life cycle of that garment. It is very important. Guys, producing 1 meter of cotton takes up I don't know how many gallons of water. Producing 1 meter of silk takes up double that amount of water. We don't have the luxury to be, starting new fashion categories. This planet is already, like, carbon footprints all over the
Overburdened.
place. The planet is dying. We need less of fashion categories. We need more of fashion longevity. We need to invent more of that. Yes. Lavanya evidently wasn't expecting this answer. She thought I would get something very cool, but that ain't happening. If you spend the amount of time you spent in this industry as much as I have, the first thing is you are aware of what needs to change. So yeah, sorry, Lavanya, sorry for disappointing you.
No, I really like that answer because I also believe that thrifting, fashion longevity, whatever you call it, needs
Yeah,
to make a powerful comeback and, kind of literally switch off that fast fashion mode in people and be like, please
yeah,
be
yeah.
mindful of your consumption. Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is for fashion and that is for food. The two industries that I'm most passionate about are the two most wasteful industries on the planet. Like a quick anecdote is
Mhm.
that during the pandemic, for example, because I brew my own coffee. So, I get coffee. I buy beans. I get them ground, roasted and ground, and then after that, I'm cold pressing or French pressing or cold brewing my coffee and all of that.
Mhm.
And then after that, I'm left with coffee grounds, right, with coffee meal. During the
Yeah.
pandemic, I just made the point to make coffee scrubs for all my friends with all of that coffee meal because I was like, this is a humongous amount of trash for no reason because the coffee these this coffee meal has there is another cycle of utility that is left with it. So why not utilize that, right? So it's that point that today, for example, potato peel fries and air frying potato peel and air frying pumpkin skin, all of that is
Hmm.
picking up on Instagram. It's great Instagram content. I really hope everybody is doing that at home. So increasing the longevity is very, very important. I think we need to reduce waste. We need to. Very important. Yeah.
Meera is asking, with gender neutral fashion growing, do you see it evolving into a dominant mainstream trend or just remaining niche?
Very good question. Thank you. Mainstream trend for shiz. Everyone is now understanding. I will say this as it's primarily in the tier one cities and in the metros as of now.
Yeah.
It will take some time to trickle into because again, it's a major cultural shift, and it all boils down to those two beautiful words called patriarchy and masculinity. It has nothing to do with women. Women have been wearing pants and shirts for a very long time. It is men. It has nothing to do with women. Women have been acing it for a very long time. Today, the rules of masculinity are easing. You can see it sort of kind of allow itself a little more because it is easing. Gender neutral fashion is finding a space. It is being able to breathe. It is finding safe spaces in metros and tier one cities purely because metros and tier one cities are, they are exploring more, they're traveling more, they
Mhm.
have more of that disposable income. The generations, for example, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, consuming the kind of global content they're consuming. So it's become easier. It is definitely the future because it will go in that direction purely because of the fact that I think anything that is gender specific is not fun. Any kind of compartmentalization, boxing, borders, uh, straight lines, pun intended, is just not fun. So the point is that the more there will be sharing and fluidity, the more
Yeah.
people will start enjoying themselves. And yeah, that's definitely the future. I really hope that's the future. That is a future that I'm very, very excited about. So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. One last question. What's a storytelling trend that you wish would disappear?
Um. Oh, okay. So this sudden trend that has started with the format is called machinima, which is computer graphics generated. visuals generated by computer, 2D graphics, which then is used to tell stories, and it becomes
Hmm.
series format stories. So it started with Skibidi Toilet, it became Ganji Churel in India. Oh my God, I want it.
Ganji
And
Chudel is an icon. I beg to differ.
I agree, because the point is that today when Swiggy did a campaign with seven tier three, tier four macro influencers, the
Yeah.
seventh influencer was Ganji Churel. I was shocked when I saw that campaign. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any of those people. Then I saw that they had millions of followers, because I realized. So that's again, you realize for the brand, it made sense not to get a celebrity, but to get targeted influencers. One
Influencers.
of Correct. Ganji Churel was the seventh person. My point is that it is when, for example, you take storytelling and you strip it of all its flavor, color, texture, where you have one voice going like, उस दिन गंजी चुड़ैल आई थी घर पे और फिर बाबू को देखा और आलू खा रहा था. You have this running narrative at the back, and it is not just for Ganji Churel. It's also now there are these home decor videos where this guy stays
Oh my
in
God.
like
Yeah,
one
they're
meter
so
by one.
unhinged.
That's the point. They are unhinged. Why are we consuming this level of unhinged cringe content? We need to stop. And then I read up and I realized, oh my God, we've already named this as a genre. That's a huge problem, because the moment you call something as a genre, within a couple of years, I was going to crack a joke, I shan't, but within a couple of years, colleges will start teaching it. And that's the problem.
Okay.
Um, the point is, there is beauty in live action storytelling, there is beauty in animation, there is so much beauty in all our formats of storytelling. We don't need to strip it down to a situation where there's no music, no dialogue, no the graphics can it's absolutely fine if the graphics are horrible, because you want it to be horrible. We
Hmm.
don't need that. Machinima really has to die. Skibidi toilet, what on earth is that? Like, it's a bunch of people who have toilets instead of heads, and they're fighting each other, and that has gone on for 100 episodes on YouTube. What is going on with the world? Like, I don't want to sound like an old person, but good lord, we are unhinged as a population. We've lost it completely. So that has to stop. I'm okay with vertical storytelling. I've accepted that now, but this can't be. We can't be. Yeah, we just can't be doing this. Not at all. So strongly against Ganji Chudai. I will have
I
it on a
think it's
t-shirt.
what I call mainstream niche. I know oxymoron, but it's literally everywhere, but only a
Yeah,
handful of people enjoy it. Like in its purest sense, like it's so trashy, but people like it.
I think everyone who's enjoying it should be discussing that in therapy. There is something really, really wrong. There is something really off somewhere. If you are enjoying, you come across. My friends have forced me to watch Ganji Churel content, and my reaction, even after like almost a year of being constantly bombarded by it, is still disgust. So I realize that I'm still healthy. The moment, for example, I start enjoying it, I need to go to therapy. There is a humongous requirement. I don't care about the amount of flack I get. There is a problem if stripped down, cringe storytelling is appealing to you.
Yeah.
Figure out why. Like, figure out. Sit down with your parents. Ask how they, ruined you. Figure something out. There is something wrong somewhere. Like, it's as simple as that. So yeah, that would be my answer. Yeah.
Nice piece of advice for the community. A last gold nugget of wisdom, I guess. Don't watch unhinged content.
Yes, like just what that's the reason why you're not reading a book. Just try to stay away from your phone. Read a
That is
book or
true.
watch better content. There are so many filmmakers. Watch films. Have you watched every single thing that's on Netflix, for crying out loud? Watch that. Like, there is so much, from Poland to Czechoslovakia to Korea to Africa. There's so much content. Watch all of that. I'm still okay, but please stop enjoying videos of someone walking by somebody, spitting into their mouth, them spitting into someone else's mouth. Share that. What are you doing? That makes no sense. And you don't need a 32-year-old man to tell you that, for crying out loud. Like, seriously. It's just bizarre. This is just bizarre. But yeah, I should stop
Okay.
ranting. This is turning into a rant.
You know what? Probably you could drop down a couple of books or movies that you have enjoyed in the community, like on the chat box, so that people can
But
take a break from Skibidi Toilet and watch and read these.
my God, yeah. No, but seriously, I think everyone should be searching for a lot of Polish content. See, these days language is not a not an issue at all because you can watch things in
Mm.
whatever language you want. I am loving the kind of work Poland is doing, and this is all commercial, all right? I'm not talking. The moment people talk about international content, everyone thinks it's going to be extremely artistic with black and
Mm.
white slow mo. It's very interesting storytelling. There are comedies, there are murder mysteries, there are thrillers. I think I
Yeah.
love what Poland is doing. The point is that it's very. Please check out South African content. You also expose yourself to a lot, like, a lot of cultural thinking. I love watching reality, reality format shows from different parts of the world, other than America and Europe, different
Mm-hmm.
parts of the world, purely because you get a sense of the culture and understanding. Like, for example, Dubai Bling. For example, South Africa has something called Young, Rich, and African. You get an understanding of so much of culture, understanding of relationships, understanding of traditional versus modern in that context, understanding of their relationship with money. What do you mean by rich? What do you mean by poor? It is
Mm.
very exciting. So the point is that I really think people should definitely explore other countries. It's very, very important. Indian content, anyway, you will always watch Indian content. The thing is
Yeah.
that something comes out, two of your friends say, "Arey, ye dekha, ye bahut acha hai," you will come home, you will sit down, you will watch it. I don't need to say that. If there is an American content or British content that's a part of the trend, you will. But please, if you're not going to be reading books from around the world, at least watch stuff from around the world and expose yourself to different cultures and formats of storytelling. So definitely that. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Arnesh, for
It's been a
carving out your
pleasure. It's been a
precious
pleasure.
time and coming here. It was really fun chatting to you about, brands, trends, storytelling, and everything else under the sun.
Thank you so
I
much. My
hope
pleasure.
you also enjoyed the talk. And
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
would
Yeah.
really love for you to come back on Thinkly and, maybe have a part two or we talk about something else because I feel like I've just scraped the surface when it
Yep,
comes to
yep, yep.
you and your experience.
Definitely. Most excited. Would love to. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. It's been a pleasure. It's been an
Thank you
absolute
so
pleasure.
much for
Thank you.
everyone who tuned in and dropped your questions, and see you again for the next episode.
Thank you, guys. Good evening. Bye bye.